Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Moseley with MP Dodge here in Omaha.
I'm Alex Drake with Lincoln Federal Savings Bank.
And we're here with your next update on market statistics here in Omaha. And we're going to talk a little bit about loans today as well. So as far as the local market, as you can see in the graphic on the screen here, pending listings were down a little bit, 3.9% over last year. Home inventory, been about the same numbers for months now. 1.3 for existing homes, 6.2 months for new construction. Median sale price is a little bit higher, 3.1% at $300,000. As far as the home inventory, I would say one thing I've noticed, maybe you can chime in too if you've seen it, is I've got I've got a few buyers that are frustrated with the battle for an existing home, and it seems like everything up to $400,000 is still going like that. Getting sometimes multiple offers, and then it seems like anything above $450 to $500, that's where they sit for a while.
Yeah, I would say 500 plus sit for a little bit. I don't know how much either of us really play in this world, but if you're over 800, 900,000 as a seller, those houses even 3-4 years ago sat for a while. So if you're listing one of those houses, I would say don't be discouraged by the time it's taken so far.
You'd have to play a long game with those.
Yeah, for sure. That is a very small buyer pool in our market. But yeah, I think anything under 350, if it's priced aggressively for the comps, it goes insanely fast right now, which means as a buyer, I would have multiple options on how to get into that house to make your offer more attractive. Sometimes that is as simple as offering a little bit over, and we can talk about that a little bit more later, but avoiding home sale contingencies. And I have some great products. I can talk to anybody about that offline. It's a little bit long for a video, but
yeah. And so some in that lower price point, I've got a couple buyers who are like, well, let's just build. Because these builders have all these houses sitting out there now, and they're still selling their spec homes and whatnot. And so I've had a couple people move that direction because they don't want to fight the battle for the existing homes anymore. And those, are there much difference between those loans, a new construction versus existing, or?
No, not at all. I mean, I think you're still always going to get more house for the money on an existing. That's just the way it is. Construction costs are inflated for sure. The one thing I tell my clients, and we will definitely talk about more of this a little bit farther on, is my biggest downside to a new construction house, especially, well, two points here. As a first-time buyer, you really don't know everything that you want in a house and what exactly you're looking for, and then you invest all this money into building the house. And I've had multiple first-time buyers come back and say, a year, 2 years later, like, this isn't what we really want anymore. And again, you're investing a lot more. You're investing more money into new construction. Now, if you have the means to do it, I have no qualms about you doing it. But that's just something to keep in mind. The second thing is, sometime within your first 2 years, you're going to have massive payment shock. And that's because when you close on your new construction house, it's not fully tax assessed. So what I do with my clients, and this is pretty standard, is we'll show you those numbers based off predicted taxes for the future, all the way up until about a week before closing. So it's built into your mind. But I always recommend going with that payment that I showed you the whole 5 months going into that new construction or whatever it is, and opening a savings account, making your regular payment as scheduled based off of the actual taxes, and anything extra throwing into an extra savings account to keep that payment. That way, when you get fully assessed, you get that letter from the assessor, you get that letter from the bank saying, taxes have gone up, here's what your new payment is. You'll have two options. Your payment's going up no matter what, but you'll have two options. You can take an extra hit on that payment to catch your escrow up, or you can pay the lump sum to keep that payment relatively close to what you have been mentally paying with that savings account.
And we're going to be talking about a significant amount, because some of these lots and these new constructions, the tax is like $400 or $500.
A year, yeah.
Yeah, per year. And then it's going to jump to 10, 12,000 maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
We're out, out in Gredna or Elkhorn or something like that. That's a huge,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like $1,000 a month more right there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Obviously, too, your insurance on a new construction is significantly lower, but it will go up pretty quickly, too.
Yeah. So there's some downsides sometimes to new construction if you're not planning ahead, if you're not having that foresight. Loans for these homes. So what is interest rates sitting at? 6.3, 6.5 still?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I haven't looked a ton at rates this week.
Someone's had a busy week.
Yeah, I was lucky enough my wife and I were lucky enough to welcome our son a week ago. Today, this is Saturday.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
But you've been out of the picture now. So.
Yeah, but I've done a little bit. I actually priced out a loan late Thursday night for a client, and the rates had gone up throughout the week. They were sitting at about 6.75. I was watching from afar yesterday. I didn't price anything out. They were coming down all day, and then after Moody's Analytics dropped the United States credit rating, things went the other way. So I don't really know where they're at. I would say somewhere between 6.625 and 6.875 on a conventional today, and probably around 6.125 to 6.25 on a government loan.
Okay. So probably not going to get under 6% anytime soon. So
I would not say so.
What's somebody going to do to try to get that down?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things that we can do, and the temporary buy down is a big topic right now. And builders are, a lot of the times if builders have houses sitting, they'll offer some concessions to buy down the rate. And normally they market it for a temporary buy down, like a 3-2-1 or 2-1 buy down. My problem with that on a new construction.
Explain for a minute what a 3-2-1 buy down means.
Yeah, so 3-2-1, let's just say the rate today is 6.75. A 3-2-1 is year one, your rate would be 3 percentage points lower, so 3.75. Year two, 4.75. Year three, 5.75. And then year four, 6.75. 2-1, same thing, just subtract a year. So it'd be 4.75, 5.75, 6.75. Now, my problem with that on new construction is simply not only are you getting payment shock from the taxes, you're also getting payment shock from the interest rate. So you're getting hit twice really hard. But it is a great product. And we'll throw some numbers on what that would look like on, I'll do a $350,000 loan to show that.
Okay.
But yeah, so we'll show that. And then you can also do a permanent buy down. And conventional wisdom on both of these is simply, if you're paying this with your own money, if what you save in principal and interest isn't recouped in 3 years for that cost, avoid it. Don't do it. So I recently had a buyer. He got $18,000 in seller concessions. Mm-hmm. He used 16 of it to buy down to a 5.25. Now, that's a lot. I would not do that with my own money, but with seller money, absolutely. That saves you a ton of money over the life of the loan. The good news about the temporary buy downs that I really like is simply that essentially 2 escrow accounts are created. You have your typical escrow for taxes and insurance, and then there's another escrow account with the money put into it for the buy down. Every year takes a certain amount of money. Now, if you do a 3-2-1 and you refinance in year 2 or 3, whatever is left in that escrow account gets credited towards your payoff, so that money isn't wasted. Whereas, if you did a permanent buy down and you refinance before that 3 years, that money's just gone. So those are the two big differences. But you also don't have the payment shock with the permanent buy down.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk about one more thing today, the bigger picture of the economy. So you do a little more reading and whatnot on the economy.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I look at the local housing market and I'm aware of some
Yeah.
the important numbers for my buyers and sellers, but you go a little deeper usually. So
Yeah, someday we'll have to get the charts that I have up for everybody so they can see what I look at all day, every day. But good news is this week, JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs both drastically lowered their prediction for recession. JP Morgan dropped below 50%. Last month I think it was over 60%. And then Goldman Sachs dropped, I believe it was to 35%. And last month, I think they were hovering around 50%. So good news coming out of the trade wars to some degree. I don't pretend to know enough about that world to say if we're winning or losing, but it's at least enough that the big economy experts are lowering their predictions of recession. So, and on top of that, we've talked about this numerous times. The good news here is in Omaha, even if we go back to 08, 09, and that's just like the baseline that we use in this discussion, right, around the housing industry. Because
extreme example.
Yeah, it was nationwide. But even then, I'm back up one more time here. Again, that's the baseline we use. But the truth is, there's not any data that points that we're close to that, specifically in the housing market. But using that as a baseline, even then, Omaha fared very well during those tough times. We're a very insulated economy. You guys at Dodge, I know you guys have that data more readily available than I do, but I think we saw at most a 2% valuation decrease, and it recovered within the first 3 years of those hard times.
what does a recession do to interest rates?
Hopefully it brings them down.
If there was a recession. We don't want that, obviously.
Hopefully it brings them down. But so do things like war, right? There's a lot of things that can bring it down. So
a pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic. So it's really hard to predict the rates. And I'll tell you right now, anybody who's telling you rates are going to do this, they're going to be down to this level in the next 6 months or a year, they're full of it. And they're hedging their bets to, come out looking like a hero, like I was right, blah, 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 blah. Nobody has a crystal ball on what that's going to do. Right. It seems like the Fed and the administration are at odds on what they should do. And so there's just a lot of moving parts. And I tell people all the time, pre-pandemic, I had a 50-50 shot of being right on what rates were going to do the next day. And I would say right now we're like at 10% shot at being right, because unfortunately, I would say for the last 6 months to a year specifically, but even longer, the rates have not followed the data. I just told you last week, we went through a 10-day stretch where the data did matter and the rates did what the data said it should do. And then the very next day it was the opposite again. So it's just really hard for anybody to predict rates. Now, I say that to also say that I am confident that rates will start to trickle down. If you look at inflation numbers are falling at an extremely high rate. There is fear of inflation, which is slowing down the Fed from making those moves. But I do think that we are going to enter a period here in the next 6 months to a year. I don't bet on it, but I feel confident in it that rates will start to come down. And I think there's a ton of people out there that if they don't capitalize while rates are high and they're qualified, when rates come down, they're just, if you think it's competitive now, when rates come down and get into the fives, it's going to be a whole new level of competition than what you're used to for the last 2 to 3 years.
So a recession brings rates down. A pandemic will bring it down. War will bring it down. Trade wars will maybe bring it down. Yeah. Is there a good thing that makes the rates go down? Or does it all just mean doom and gloom with the rates?
No, I mean, obviously strong economies will bring the rates down. And we have a fairly strong economy still, but inflation scares rates. So when inflation is really bad, and we have seen a ton of layoffs specifically in the tech sector over the last year, And we've seen a ton of layoffs across my industry as well, right? So it's kind of, you know, it's so weird because bonds, the 10-year treasury is what drives rates directly the most. And that's kind of a safe haven people flock to in uncertain times, which is kind of why rates are hanging high. But the stock market has still been doing so well. So that spread is really what is perplexing to most of us right now.
It's more of an art than a science.
Yeah,
Stuff.
yeah, it is. And when you say art, I would say Picasso, because some of these charts are not making a lot of sense right now.
Got it. All right. Anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I think we're good. I mean, obviously, anybody who watches this channel, if you have questions, you just want to talk, reach out to both of us. I do free consultations, no strings attached. Don't even have to pull credit to just talk about your situation and see if maybe homeownership is right for you. Obviously, if you are a homeowner and you over the last couple of years got buried under some debt and want to look at maybe a cash out refinance or something to help alleviate some of your monthly liabilities, we can run those analyses as well. Anything we can do to help you out, Ryan and I are always on board with.
Yep, definitely. And if we're just talking about just seeing what buying a new one would look like, we can sit down and talk about that. We can maybe look at your home. Is it ready to sell? Do we need to do some work to get it ready to sell? And again, we can have these conversations without signing contracts or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about being stuck with somebody or having to sell your home. No one's going to make you sell your home. So reach out to either one of us with any conversations you'd like to have. We'd be happy to talk to you and help you out. Education is always a big piece, which is why we do these videos in the first place, because things change quite often. And if you haven't been in the market for 10 years, 15 years, it's
changed a lot.
Yeah, it's very different. So
it's changed a lot since COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, we rolled out a whole new application process on the mortgage side. So it's a whole different world.
Yep. So reach out with any questions you have. Maybe you didn't even know what questions you do have. You just want to hear more about the loans, the homes, whatever. So we're here to help you with that. So feel free to reach out, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks, Ed.